Have you ever made a decision and later thought, how on earth did I not see that coming? Well, it's not just you, it's your brain. And guess what? Your mind is tricking you more often than you think. Today, we're uncovering 11 of the sneakiest thinking traps that control your decisions, and you probably don't even realize it. Stick around, you'll never look at your thoughts the same way again. Welcome to part 1 of 21 Mind Traps, the ultimate guide to your most common thinking errors. This two-part series is inspired by Daniel Kahneman's groundbreaking book, Thinking Fast and Slow. If you've ever been curious about why we make irrational decisions or fall for mental shortcuts, you're in the right place. In this video, we'll go through the first 11 thinking traps that trip us up daily, explaining each one in simple terms. Ready? Let's dive in. The spotlight effect. The spotlight effect. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like everyone was staring at you? Maybe you spilled coffee on your shirt or had a bad hair day. Here's the truth, most people barely notice. The spotlight effect makes us overestimate how much others are paying attention to us. The reality? They're too busy thinking about their own lives to care. So, that embarrassing moment you're replaying in your head? It's not as big of a deal as you think. 2. The anchoring effect. Imagine you're buying a car. The salesperson starts by showing you a model priced at $50,000. Suddenly, the $40,000 car feels like a bargain. That's the anchoring effect. Your brain latches onto the first piece of information it sees and uses it as a reference point, even when it shouldn't. This is why starting prices, discounts, and even negotiations are so powerful. They're all playing on your mental anchor. 3rd, confirmation bias. We all love being right, don't we? That's why we tend to seek out information that confirms what we already believe and ignore anything that challenges us. It's called confirmation bias. If you think a certain diet works, you'll find stories to back it up and dismiss studies that say otherwise. The problem? This trap keeps us stuck in our beliefs, even when they're wrong. 4th, availability heuristic. Picture this. You hear about a plane crash on the news, and suddenly flying feels terrifying. That's the availability heuristic at work. Your brain uses the most recent or vivid information to judge how common or risky something is. The truth? Statistically, flying is far safer than driving, but because crashes are dramatic and memorable, they feel much more likely than they are. 5. Loss aversion. Let me ask you this. Would you rather avoid losing $50 or gain $50? If you're like most people, the thought of losing money stings way more than the joy of gaining it. This is loss aversion, a bias where losses feel twice as painful as equivalent gains feel pleasurable. It's why we avoid risks, even when the potential reward outweighs the cost. 6. Overconfidence bias. Think about this. How good are you at driving compared to the average person? If you said better, you're not alone. Most people think the same. That's overconfidence bias, where we overestimate our abilities, knowledge, or control over a situation. It's great for motivation but terrible for decision-making, especially when you don't know what you don't know. 7. The Dunning-Kruger effect. Speaking of not knowing, the Dunning-Kruger effect is the tendency for people with low ability or knowledge in a subject to overestimate their competence. Basically, the less you know, the more confident you are. Ever met someone who thought they were an expert after watching one YouTube tutorial? That's this effect in action. The scary part? It's hard to spot in yourself. Sunk cost fallacy. Have you ever kept watching a terrible movie just because you already paid for the ticket? That's the sunk cost fallacy. The idea that we should stick with something just because we've already invested time, money, or effort into it. The truth is, those costs are gone, and continuing doesn't guarantee a payoff. Sometimes, quitting is the smarter choice. Hindsight bias. After something happens, it's easy to look back and think, I knew it all along. But did you really? Hindsight bias makes events seem more predictable after they've occurred. It's why we think we saw a breakup, market crash, or plot twist coming when, in reality, we didn't. This trap makes us overconfident in our ability to predict the future. 10. The bandwagon effect. Why do trends explode? From TikTok dances to cryptocurrency, the bandwagon effect explains why people adopt ideas or behaviors just because others are doing it. It's a powerful social pressure. We don't want to miss out or seem out of touch. The problem? Following the crowd doesn't always lead to the best outcomes. 11. The halo effect. Ever meet someone who's good-looking or charming and automatically assume they're smart, kind, or talented? That's the halo effect. We let one positive trait, like appearance, influence how we judge someone's overall character. This bias works in reverse too. One negative trait can unfairly color our perception of someone. These are just the first 11 thinking traps that shape your decisions in ways you might not even notice. From the spotlight effect to the halo effect, each one highlights how your brain shortcuts its way through the world, and often, these shortcuts lead you astray. Understanding these traps is the first step to thinking more clearly and making better decisions. If you found this helpful, don't miss part 2, where we'll cover the next 10 mind traps. See you there.